It's Check It Out!
In this week's Check It Out, Simon will show you how to create a reading list of websites in Google Chrome.
Geoff will show you the best font ever!
Next, Mike will show you how to make custom wallpapers for your desktop.
And Greg will show you the much-anticipated bulk archive activities feature in Seesaw.
Check it out!
Have you ever been sent a link to a website with a really interesting article? Or you've been doing some searching and you found a really interesting article? Or you're just surfing and found a interesting article, but you don't have time to read it or digest it all? Well, wouldn't it be great that I could just have a quick reading list? I don't want to make it a bookmark. I just want to be able to come back and check it out at a later date. Well, we can. There's a new button in town and it's called Show the Side Panel. And when I click on that Show the Side Panel, I get the reading list. And what I can do on the tab I'm at the moment, I can add it to my reading list. So I'm just going to add this current tab. I've also got another website that's of interest to me, how to stop Spotify from sharing your data, and I want to read this later. So I'm going to also add that current tab. Now, once I've actually read it, I can come through, back over to here, and I can check mark it. Here it is, mark as read. So I've got my unread articles, and I've got my read articles. And if I don't want to have it in my list anymore, I just come to the little cross there and take it out. So that's a very handy little feature to have as a reading list. Of course, I've got all my bookmarks, which can get awfully confusing if you haven't saved them in a nice order like I haven't. Now I'm going to use the reading list, because now I can add them to my reading list. Once I've read them, I can delete them from my reading list, or I could actually bookmark them if I need it as further reference later on. And the last thing, of course, is if I don't want this side panel showing, I just come back to the button here, click on it, and it's closed. Click on it, and it's open. Click on it, and it's closed. Happy reading, everybody.
Do you spend much time thinking about fonts? Probably not, other than some simple rules you've heard or been told from someone else. No Comic Sans. Be consistent. Make sure people can read your writing. Fonts are a way of communicating. They can set the mood of a document, a website, or a poster. Sometimes just a font on its own tells you a lot about the text. But there's a lot more to typography than just choosing your default font on a Google Doc. There are people who study and design fonts, and they look very deeply into what makes a font. Head serif, ascender, eye, terminal, descender, foot serif, hairline, apex, kerning, spacing, blah 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 blah. You're probably asking, Geoff, what does this mean for me, the humble classroom teacher? Fonts can actually affect the way we interact with text. One example is that there are fonts specifically designed to help people with dyslexia. That got me thinking, is there a font that allows me and my students to read more quickly, or one that makes it easier to read? Well, it turns out that there is. It's called Lexend, and it was developed over many years of research by an educational therapist, Dr. Bonnie Shaver-Troop. And some big tech names like, you've probably heard of them, Apple, Google, Stanford and Microsoft. If you're interested in why Lexend is the best font for reading, there's a heap of peer-reviewed research and information about fonts and reading available online. Once I found out about this, I quickly added Lexend into my Google Fonts, and then made it my default font for all of my Google Docs. So, to add a font to your library, all you need to do is use the Fonts drop-down menu at the top of your Google Doc. Click on More Fonts. Here you can search a variety of fonts. I'm going to do a quick search for Lexend. You'll notice that there are 8 Lexend fonts, with each font having a different amount of spacing. Decca has the least, and Zeta having the most. Because we're all different, and we all have different preferences, I like to give students a block of text, then get them to add all the Lexend fonts. Then they can go through them one at a time to see which one they like the best. Once they've chosen the version of Lexend that suits them, they can then make it their default font. To do this, once the font's installed, all you need to do is highlight a line of text with the font, go to Format, Paragraph Styles, Normal Text, and update normal to match. Then you need to go to Format, Paragraph Styles, Options, and Save as my default styles. Now, whenever you start a new doc, the default font will be Lexend.
This is your MacBook desktop. It's a great place to put a whole pile of documents for quick access. Although it loses its effectiveness when your desktop starts to look like this. So maybe do what I do and just dump everything into a folder that I keep telling myself that I'll organize later. Yeah. But the desktop is also a wonderful place to put photos of your loved ones, mountainscapes from your recent vacation, or cheat sheets that you find yourself using a lot, like the school calendar or a list of all the approaches to learning. But there's a bit of a trick to making everything look right. If you're not careful, your photos can get stretched or look really pixelated and gross. So, to make sure this doesn't happen to you, set up your desktop image using Google Drawings. Google Drawings is a great free collaborative tool that we all have access to, included in Google Drive. Just open up Drive, click on New, More, and then Drawings. The key here is to set up your page to mimic the size of your screen. So you have to click on File, then Page Setup, and click on this drop-down arrow, click on Custom, and I prefer to use pixels as my units. Now, our MacBooks have a pixel count of 2,560 times 1,600. So just type that in, and apply. And now this area will be the same dimensions as your MacBook screen. Once that's set, you can place pictures or whatever you want into your Google Drawing. Here, I'm going to insert some images that I have prepared. I can now resize them, move them around, and even give them some angles. You can even give it some text. Remember to give your collage a title. When you're ready to make this your desktop photo, just go to File, Download, select JPEG. I like to click on this up chevron and Show in Finder, and I can right-click my file and click on Set Desktop Picture. Now, when I look at my desktop, I have my collage of Mallorca. So try it out. Get creative with your desktop wallpapers and play around with Google Drawings.
This week I want to share a new feature in Seesaw that will help you and your students clear up your activities feed. So here's the problem. I'm signed into the student account of our friend David, a fake pupil here, and as you can see, he has a whopping 73 old incomplete activities in his feed. If he's a student who likes to have an empty to-do list, he might be tempted to do this: submit a throwaway response just to clear the activity out of his feed. As a teacher, this clutters up your approval feed and presents a conundrum. If you approve the response, you're basically spamming the student's family members. But if you send it back or delete it, it'll go right back into the student's to-do list. Luckily, Seesaw has finally heard the millions of complaints I'm sure they've been getting about this issue and just recently introduced a solution: the Bulk Archive Activities feature. Now, if you navigate to the Activities tab, you'll see a new button at the bottom that says Bulk Archive Activities. When you click on this, it gives you the option to archive all activities before a certain date. Archiving activities will remove them from students' to-do lists, but it won't delete any existing responses to those activities. So basically clear out anything that you don't want and leave the stuff that you do. So I'm going to archive everything more than about a month old, and let's see what impact that has on David's feed. Now, the next time David visits his Activities tab, there will only be 5 activities there from the last month that he should probably catch up on. And that's it. Now you can quickly do some spring cleaning of those old activities with just a few clicks.